we're ranking the best and worst diets on the tier list. Now, these diets can either support you doing 4 to 5 watts per week for fat loss, for building muscle, sustainability. We'll go over the factors. And if it does do that, it will end up on the S godlike tier, very top. From here, it only goes and gets worse. All right. You have the A tier, which is still a very good approach to dieting and how I would eat nutritionally. B, very similar, maybe not the best option, but you could do it for a period of time and see success. C, probably wouldn't do this. This is something that you see other people do and maybe have success, and then you realize later they don't have success with this diet anymore because it just wasn't sustainable enough. The D tier, of course, is something I would completely avoid. And F, if you do this diet, unsubscribe from this channel because it is definitely not going to support you on your goals to lose body fat, build muscle, and crush your watts. Let's start with the standard American diet. What is the standard American diet? The standard American diet is really defined as a typical eating pattern in the United States. As you guys know, obesity has risen percentages over the last 30 to 50 years. And my guess is that it will continue to do so. The standard American diet is the reason people are in the place that they're at. High body fat percentages and really feel frustrated around not being able to lose weight. There are people doing 4 to 5 watts per week, of course, that are still overweight and are part of this obesity epidemic in statistic. It is because of the standard American diet, whether they followed the standard American diet at some point in their life or still do. The standard American diet is a super high calorie diet. There's no restriction at all in terms of the foods that you can eat or the amounts of calories that you can have. It's typically very high in refined carbohydrates, high in saturated fat, high in trans fat, low in fruits and vegetables, usually also low in fiber. It's going out to eat a lot. It stands for S.A.D, SAD, standard American diet, okay? This diet on the tier list is an F. There is no reason why people should have excess sodium, excess bad saturated fats, or an excess of saturated fat is bad, right? Excess of refined carbohydrates. Like, all of these things are just unnecessary and they're not going to get you closer towards your goals, and you're just going to put on unwanted body fat because you're eating in excess of amounts than your body needs to support performance and body composition. S.A.D, stay away from the standard American diet. It's really not going to help you towards your goals. Now, the second diet is keto diet. So for those of you that don't know keto, it stands for ketogenic. It is high in fats. The majority of macro percentages leans way towards the fats, moderate in protein, and very, or if not extremely low in carbohydrates. Your body starts to run and utilize fat as the primary fuel source, and that puts you in ketosis. Ketosis is where your body uses fat as the primary fuel source instead of carbohydrates, which is a superior fuel source. There's very, very limited amount of foods that you can have on a keto diet. You're literally almost eliminating an entire macronutrient, that being carbs, and restricting protein. We know protein is the most important macronutrient. We know carbs is the second most important macronutrient if you do 4 to 5 watts per week. If you stick to the keto diet, you will lose weight right from the get-go because you're going to be losing all of your glycogen storage, which is carbs stored in the muscle. Attached to that is water, so you'll lose weight, but this is not sustainable at all, and it's certainly not going to be good for performance. I'm putting this also in the F category with the standard American diet. Do not follow keto, please. For the love of God. It's not good. It's terrible. Let's go to the Mediterranean diet. So the Mediterranean diet is obviously inspired by people inhabiting in or around the Mediterranean Sea, countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea. And this diet emphasizes whole grains, lean proteins, especially fish, very important in the Mediterranean Sea, of course, right? Loaded with fish. It kind of limits a little bit of the red meat and discourages processed foods. So that's the Mediterranean diet. Not very restrictive, which is great. That's an excellent thing when it comes to sustainability, is giving yourself permission to have the foods that you like and knowing how to build habits around incorporating those foods in moderation. So the Mediterranean diet, I actually love it. I think it's great, especially if you love fish. I'm putting this in the A category, A+, actually. Really great diet if, you eat more of these foods and be inclusive with the diets that you're following. I think it's an excellent option. Next, intermittent fasting. You guys, if you listen to this podcast, know my thoughts on intermittent fasting, but where does it stack up on the tier list compared to other other approaches and diets out there. Fasting is not about what you eat, it's more about when. So you can have any foods you want. So a lot of these diets, we're talking about the type of foods you can eat, how much, and then now we're also gonna factor in when. Intermittent fasting is all about when. That already in and of itself is not a good thing because we wanna fuel around our workouts. Nutrient timing we know plays an important role, and it doesn't really give you any idea of what to eat, which could also be a decent thing because like I mentioned before, we don't wanna be restricting any one food necessarily. And so intermittent fasting is really popular with the 16-8 method where you fast for 16 hours, you can eat for 8, this fasting window, and people like to say this mimics our ancestral times of how we ate. I was with one of my head coach, Justina. She recently had her baby, Isla, and that baby drinks milk every 2 hours. And then when it wasn't, it was crying. So this whole, we should do intermittent fasting because of our ancestors, no. They were feeding babies every 2 hours then too, right? Anytime the baby was hungry or the mother was producing, they were feeding. So I'm not buying it. I don't think our DNA is lined up to be superior eating in a 16-8 or some sort of intermittent fasting window. So I'm actually gonna give intermittent fasting a C. Try it for a little bit if you're one of those people that gets up busy early to work, but make sure you get that protein in later in the day. That's the only way it's going to be sustainable for you and you're going to see the results you want. And then, you know, obviously if you work out in the morning and you're a 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. I wouldn't recommend doing intermittent fasting at all. But I'm going to put it in the C category. That's where I stack it up amongst the others. Next is the vegan diet. So now we're back to a food composition, food restriction based approach. Now the vegan diet excludes all animal products, right? Including meats, dairy, eggs, even honey. And so it focuses on plant-based foods as opposed to animal-based products and foods. Vegetables, fruits, grains, legumes, and plant-derived derivatives. Now, when it comes to the vegan diet, it obviously is restrictive, and a lot of people do this for ethical reasons. They feel that they don't want to eat animals, it doesn't feel right to them, or animal-based products, but it leaves some difficulty hitting that protein goal. Can it be done? Yes. Can you get in B12 and some of the other micronutrients that are missing and found primarily in meat products? Yes, you can also do it. So it's certainly possible, and there are people that are successful with it. However, I find it very difficult to do it sustainably. There are some CrossFitters, James Newberry as an example, does the vegan diet and hits his protein goal and, you know, stuff like that, which is really cool. But it's not for everyone. If you like and prefer plant-based protein sources like pea-based protein, beans, nuts and seeds, I mean, this is where the majority of your proteins are. Tofu, edamame, I mean, these are nutritional yeast. I mean, these are common protein sources. I say go for it. Otherwise, I'm gonna put this in a C category. I'm gonna put it with intermittent fasting. If I had to choose between the two, that's really tough. That's really tough. They're almost even to me, honestly. I might choose intermittent fasting for myself personally, but they're pretty close. So I'm gonna put the vegan diet in the C tier. The next, very closely related to the vegan diet, is a vegetarian. Now, vegetarians avoid, very similar to the vegan diet, they avoid meat and they avoid fish, but they may eat dairy products. So eggs, some vegetarians will, some vegetarians won't. Dairy products really depends on preferences, but the focus is still plant-based foods. This I actually would give a B because it's a lot easier to hit the protein goal. It's still restrictive in terms of some animal-based products derived directly from the animal, right? Like steak and chicken and tuna, stuff like that. But it's a little bit easier, all right? So I would actually give this a B. I like it, I think it's good, and I think it could be sustainable for a lot of people long-term. So that is vegetarian. Now, going a step further, very also closely related is a pescatarian, right? The pescatarian diet also focuses primarily on plant-based foods. However, pescatarians can eat the dairy and they can eat fish. And so pescatarians give themselves an even better opportunity to hit that protein goal consistently. We know we need 0.75 to 1 gram per pound of body weight in that range. So I'm actually gonna give pescatarian an A. I'm gonna put it up there with the Mediterranean diet. These diets are actually pretty closely related, so it makes sense. And so this is where I would put the pescatarian diet in the A tier. Next is the Whole30. Whole30. See how I said the word 30? It means it's supposed to be followed for 30 days. It's not supposed to be forever. It's not supposed to be sustainable. It's in the freaking name. It says 30. So the Whole30 diet, also a food composition-based diet. You're eliminating processed foods, sugar, alcohol, grains, dairy, and legumes. The goal is to reset your body and identify food sensitivities, all this other crap. And now people don't do it for that. People do it to lose weight, which is the wrong reason. These are a lot of sensitivities that people will experience, right? Like sugar in and of itself comes with higher calories. Legumes, people see, sensitivities to dairy, stuff like that. Overall, for fat loss and doing 4 to 5 watts per week and fueling, it has very limited carb options. From that standpoint, I'm gonna actually put it in the C category. I don't think that it's something long-term. It's in the name, not really that ideal. I would not do the Whole30 diet. There's several other options out there that are better. Going in the C category, the Paleo diet. The Paleo diet is very similar to the Whole30 diet, but it does allow for a little bit more flexibility, which I do like. So with the Paleo diet, you're looking at is very the standard, fitness in 100 words, right? Which I'm not a super big fan of, but nonetheless, it does have some good components in it. I'm actually gonna put this as a C+. We'll put it in the C category because I think it's very similar to Whole30, but it is a little bit better than the Whole30 diet. So that's where I'm gonna put it. I wouldn't recommend doing this long term. Some people do this paleo-ish and say they do paleo where they like drink a bunch of alcohol on the weekends. You're not fucking doing paleo, right? Like if you fall in paleo, you're doing paleo. You do it all the time, right? If you can't be a vegetarian during the week and eat meat during the weekends and say you're a vegetarian, it doesn't work that way. But that's where I would put the paleo diet. And I think that makes, a lot of sense. Next on here is EC Synkowski's 800 gram challenge, which encourages the inclusion of more food. It doesn't necessarily have you eliminate anything, which is a good thing. It does encourage to get in 800 grams of weight of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. I do think that's a little bit aggressive, 800 grams. I get the idea behind it, and EC is awesome. So this recommendation can be, it's not very personalized. As you can tell, why does someone that weighs 120 versus someone that weighs, 250 also eat the same 800 grams, right? So the personalization part is not there, but it's something, more generalized that people can follow to get in more fruits and vegetables, which is a good thing. I like a slow buildup of something like this as opposed to going straight to 800 grams. I'm gonna give this diet actually a B and a B+. I like EC, I like this approach. It works and can work for a lot of people, and I think it helps people start to build the habit of getting in more fruits and vegetables, which is a really great thing. It's not even really a diet, it's more of a protocol to build better habits with fruits and vegetables. So I would actually put this as a B+. I think it's good. Next, if it fits your macros, so tracking macros. So now this is more of a, as you guys know, we're built on quit tracking macros here at CBG. I got the shirt. So if it fits your macros, allows you to eat any foods possible. Okay, so there's no restrictions, which basically means you can eat the standard American diet in terms of food quality, let's say. But you just need to hit your macronutrient targets. That's not ideal, but I do like the calorie control. I think people need more calorie control in their life, especially when it comes to weight loss. We know it's calories in, calories out, and that's the principle around if it fits your macros. This has nothing to do with timing or anything like that. I just don't think practically tracking macros is sustainable. And you guys have heard this from me forever. Nobody's going to track their macros forever. I think as part of a sustainability, it's not really possible. You're playing macro Tetris every day in MyFitnessPal. You don't feel like you can go out to eat or do certain things because you have to hit your macro targets. And so for that reason, I'm actually going to put tracking your macros as a D. I just don't see long-term the ability for people to do it. Short-term, maybe, it just depends on the approach. Maybe it could be a C for some people, but for me personally, it's a D. Yeah, I would rather do something different and higher on this list, any of those options, before I would track every single gram of food that I put it to my mouth again. It's just not a reality. The zone diet. Okay, so this is an important one because this is how HQ combines paleo with the zone to get at the amount part. So paleo has nothing to do with amounts. Zone has everything to do with the percentages, right? So the percentage of protein, carbs, and fat. So the zone diet says 40% of your daily calories from carbohydrates, 30% from protein, and 30% from fats, right? And so I think that the zone diet is good. You can break things into blocks to make it easy and stuff like that. I'm actually going to give the zone diet a B. I think that it's a great distribution for most people doing 4 to 5 watts per week, especially with the 40% in carbohydrates, which is great. And so that's why I like the zone diet for that reason. Yeah, I would actually give it a B. I think it's a really good approach. So the B list, B tier. Let me see what else we got here. Last thing I want to go over is carnivore, and then there's one more. Carnivore is better than keto. I should clarify a statement. The ketogenic diet was also not for weight loss. The ketogenic diet was actually for people that have epilepsy to help with seizures. And so if that's the case, it's obviously much higher on the list. But for fat loss, crushing your wads, it's definitely an F. The carnivore diet, I'm going to put it on the D list. Obviously protein, and that's the only reason I'm giving it a D and not an F, is because it's carnivore, or you're focusing on animal-based products, getting most of your calories, and doing that, you know, obviously you're going to hit your protein goal. If you're on carnivore and not hitting your protein goal, you definitely got some issues. You're not really following carnivore that effectively, right? And so with that, I think that, you know, the carnivore diet is good. That's where the majority of the calories come from, is from meat, animal-based products, right? And so I'm, you know, gonna give it the D instead of the F, just because you are gonna get your protein quantities in, which is a good thing. The last is the Intrinsic diet, which is the CBG, quit tracking macros forever approach that we take. The best approach out there is working with a coach, and this is going to be S tier, number one, top of the line, God tier. Work with a coach and get a personalized understanding of what's right for you. The reason is there's a lot of good nutrition information out there, but not all of it's good for you. So just as an example, I just put the keto as a F, but someone has epilepsy and it's a S tier for them. In order to not have seizures, they need to limit processed or carbohydrates in general. They need to be on a ketogenic diet. That's because that's a personalized preference and personalization based on them having epilepsy. It's S for them. It's God tier like, or for me, it's an F. I don't have epilepsy. These individual preferences come from someone, one, that can hold you accountable, two, that knows more than you, and three, can take and collect all the information out there about nutrition, collect all the information about you, disseminate the nutrition information out there, and provide something customized that you specifically can follow that's efficient. It takes you from point A to point B. It takes you from losing fat, building muscle, crushing your wads in 90 days, right? Like that's what you want. And so what we do here at CBG is we take a personalized approach. We obviously focus on portions, building out blueprints that fit your day. So it gets around the timing, especially around your workouts, which is important, but limit those high calorie foods that are not going to be as filling or as good for you in moderation. And then obviously we base it on portions. So it's not you having to play macro Tetris and feel super overwhelmed and like food's controlling you. If you want to work with a coach and you're at that place where you want to be committed, you know you need to take that next step, you're ready to kick it up a notch in 2025, click the link below. Book a call with our team. Happy to see if we can help. You got to qualify for our program because we're not sure based on what those personalized recommendations are if we can support you, but we'd love to find out. So if you click that link below, you'll talk with my team, possibly get to talk with me where we can go over some more of the details. And we also can do free consultations as well, just to understand a little bit more about you. So book that free consultation with the link below. And that's the tier list, guys. I hope you guys seriously enjoyed it. I have some special podcasts coming out on the YouTube channel in 2025. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you watching this. Merry freaking Christmas. I'm so excited it's December, and I'll see you guys on the next one. WOD Nutritionists, peace out.